It's no secret that the Paul brothers love calling out different UFC players to provoke them for a fight. While their offers have been declined plenty of times, it seems like Nate Diaz, who is not a UFC player anymore, is interested in fighting one of the brothers. And with Jake showing a mutual interest, we might have an interesting match on our hands. To know more details, keep watching. First up, odds makers predict Nate Diaz's next opponent. Everyone's been excited to see what the 37-year-old mixed martial artist had planned since his last UFC match. He'd finished his contract with the promotions at UFC 279 in Las Vegas after he defeated Tony Ferguson. While he didn't reveal his future plans, according to predictions by odds makers, he might make a comeback sooner than we think. And if their predictions are correct, his first opponent is likely to be one of the Paul brothers. Both Logan Paul and his younger brother, Jake Paul, are the favorites to fight against Diaz next, with the younger Paul topping the list at plus 150 odds. His brother followed up at the second number with plus 400 by online bookmaker BetOnline. A betting line of plus 150 means that a $100 bet would earn a profit of $150 if it ends up getting cashed. It's no secret that many MMA stars have tried to cash in on the opportunity to fight the YouTube star Jake Paul. The Paul brothers are known for calling out opponents just to make their fights more interesting. And while they've failed a few times as MMA fighters have called them out, this time it looks like someone might need the publicity from the YouTuber turned boxer too. And if the predictions are correct, it looks like Diaz might be the one doing that. Coming up, Nate Diaz's contract with UFC. Diaz had one hell of a year, with his fight with Dana White and his leaving the UFC. Earlier this year, he alleged that the president of the UFC wasn't letting him fight and talked about the poor conditions the fighters were forced to abide by. White denied these allegations, but Jake Paul also sided with Diaz, which just put more pressure on the president. Diaz just needed to play one match for his contract to end, and throughout the year, he had been making it clear that he wanted to compete one last time under the contract and get out of it once and for all. The entire public affair helped him a lot, as he ended up getting a promotion and getting a fight. At first with Khamzat Chimaev, that ended up not happening, but then with another player against whom Diaz could win, and that was the end of his contract. Talking about the entire ordeal, he stated he had boxed since he was 17 years old, and back then, he boxed with his coach. MMA shows were more around his arena. He got stuck in that. He claimed he was stuck in a cage the entire time he was there, and stated that the entire thing was just contracts and nothing else for him. Now that he's an independent player, everything is open for the taking. Talking about future plans, he stated that when the right opponent or thing comes, he'll take it. Next, Jake Paul talks about Nate Diaz. While talking about his fight with Brazilian-American MMA star Silva, Paul claimed that while he's not overlooking him, he's got his sight focused down the line too. He commented on Diaz's situation as well and stated that he would be surprised if Nate was actually a free agent. He stated Dana had a way of tying players into a contract and then keeping them bound by it. He stated that if Diaz can actually be a free agent, that would be an interesting fight. And while he's not overlooking Silva, there is an unresolved business between him and Diaz. Paul stated Diaz has a big name, and his last performance only solidified the fact that he was one to look out for. He stated many people might think that he's fighting retired MMA fighters, but Anderson never retired, and Diaz left winning. And according to Paul, Diaz is currently one of the baddest men on the planet. Jake made these comments when Diaz was in his 90-day exclusion negotiation period, and now that he was out of it and is officially an independent boxer, chances were we'll see the two of them in the ring sooner than later. Coming up, Anderson Silva's comments on Nate Diaz. The former UFC middleweight champion spoke highly of Diaz and stated that he's confident that Nate has every chance of success inside the ring. The former UFC middleweight champion spoke highly of Diaz and stated that he's confident that Nate has every chance of success inside the ring. He also talked about Nate's brother, Nick Diaz, and during an appearance on the Last Stand podcast with Brian Custer, stated the two are amazing at what they do. He stated that both the brothers in the sport can do something special and that he loves and respects them both. Not only that, but he further stated that both of them make a lot of fights special for the MMA community and having a long traditional life inside the MMA sports. Then, he concluded by saying that the two should be respected since they're amazing fighters. Finally, Nate comments on Jake's upcoming match. Talking about the possibility of fighting the problem child, Diaz told id Boxing that Paul is definitely one of his options since he's doing big things. He also commented on Jake's future match with Anderson Silva, which is due to take place on the 29th of October. Nate commented on the fight and stated that he would be impressed by both players despite who won. He stated that the match is 50-50 since it could be anyone's game since they're both good competitors. Other related news. Up first, Anderson Silva not retiring after his fight with Jake Paul. While he's older than the rest of his opponents, 47-year-old Anderson Silva doesn't let his age come in the way of his fights. The Spider's next fight is against Paul, and while many people assume that this might be one of his last matches, he has no such intentions. Talking to TMZ Sports, he stated he was definitely not thinking about retirement and was even discussing future prospects with his jiu-jitsu coaches. He went on to say that he doesn't know when he'll stop, but for now, he's challenging himself every day, one of them being training against young fighters like his son Khalil, who is 23 years old. He stated he enjoys doing that just so he can train with the young generation and not prove anything to anyone. Anderson and Paul's match is highly expected, as Jake still has a match to lose and has surprised fans with his impressive skills in the past years. Next up, Jake Paul makes a request to Adidas in relation to Kanye West. Kanye West had one of his famous Instagram ranting spams, but this time it seemed like he really pissed a lot of people off, so much so that many of his ideals have fallen through, including one of his biggest ones with Adidas. After Balenciaga dropped him, the German sportswear brand was then under fire for remaining silent, especially after the rapper made anti-Semitic comments. They continued to promote and sell Yeezy's line of sneakers, which many people did not appreciate. Jake Paul had his 2 cents to give about the situation and stated that Adidas should give away all of West's inventory for free, and stated that his products should be distributed to underprivileged children. While Adidas has made no comment about Paul's suggestion, it seems like they'll need to do much more than that to control the damage they've done by not dropping West earlier. Wrapping it up with Nate Diaz's message to rookie fighters. Now that the welterweight star is out of his UFC contract, it seems like he's aiming at rookie fighters to have a match against. Clearly, looking to keep himself booked and busy, it seems like Diaz is excited as ever to step back into the ring. As we mentioned earlier, Diaz was originally supposed to fight it out against Khamzat, but after he missed the weight, Tony Ferguson was dumped to the headliner. In the main event, Ferguson ended up losing, and currently, it's being said that the fight will go down as his last in the UFC. To stay in the loop, presumably, Diaz took to Twitter and threw some shade at the big UFC stars. He posted a clip of Renzo Gracie knocking out Oleg Taktarov in 1996, and along with the video, he attached a caption stating a similar knockout would happen to Kevin Holland, Dustin Poirier, and Charles Oliveira if they ended up testing him. This isn't the first time he's mentioned these players. In fact, he was booked to face Poirier at UFC 230 back in November 2018, but that never ended up happening. They were also about to fight it out at UFC 279 after Dustin called Diaz and offered the fight to Diaz on short notice. While he did accept it, the promotion ended up going on a different route, and he fought against Tony Ferguson instead. They were also about to fight it out at UFC 279 after Dustin called Diaz and offered the fight to Diaz on short notice. While he did accept it, the promotion ended up going on a different route, and he fought against Tony Ferguson instead. And that's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Nate Diaz's comeback and his potential fight with Jake Paul? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.